Hello and welcome to Scrappy Loom Sewing. I'm JC Dwellin, and today I would like to talk to you about quilt labels. The Quilting Society or the quilting world would like that we quilters make sure to put a quilt label on our quilts when they go out of our door into their forever home. That way, should they stand the test of time and become antiques, any quilt historian or quilt collector that should land their hands on our quilt would have pertinent information about the quilt. And being that I love quilts and I love the history of quilts, I love all things quilting, I see the importance of that. However, I have to admit, I've let numerous quilts get out of my house and go to their forever home without a label and without a picture of a lot of them. So in order for me to stop allowing that to happen, I developed a little system for myself that when the quilt is done, the quilt is done. The label is already on it and I don't have to worry about that. Because what happens is I get done with my quilt and I'm just ready to be done with it. And the quilt just feels, the quilt label just feels tedious. So I just send it on out because I want to get to the next thing. So this makes it part of the layering process. And when I actually quilt the quilt, the label is done. When I bind the quilt, I'm finished and it can go out the door and the label's already on there. So what I have been doing is making labels up ahead of time, and I will show you some of them. They are just simple rectangles, finished edge, because I took 2 layers of fabric and put them right sides together, stitched a 1/4 inch seam around the edges, leaving a small opening so that I can turn them, and I end up with something like this with the finished edge. And then all I have to do is write my information on here and attach it to the back of my quilt when I sandwich it. And the type of information that they're looking for is the date that it was completed, who it was to, who made the quilt, what the occasion was, and the quilt name. You could always put more, but they would love to have that information on your quilts. So I've made a stack of these. These are a neutral color, so it could go on a lot of different quilts, a lot of different prints without looking odd. And like I say, they're finished edge. So here's one that I've made. And I made a stack because I make a lot of quilts, and that way I can just pull one out and stick it on there. Here is another one. This would go with even more because it doesn't have any other color in. It's just a neutral. Here is one that could be applied to darker colors. And I just use a contrasting thread or marker to put the writing on there. You can use permanent pigment pens. I use permanent colored markers, the Sharpie markers, and then I press it with a lot of hot heat to make it permanent. Here's one that I've made a star label on a rectangular background, and I can put the information within the star and also outside of the star. Here is one with an applique circle, and I don't know if you see that, but there's two prints. This is a plain muslin here, and then this has got tone on tone teddy bears. And I would just write within the circle or outside the circle or both. Here's one with just a decorative shape applique. And again, these are all with the right sides sewn together and then flipped. Turned right side out, and I cut the back away just to get rid of some of that thickness. This one is a heart because I love my hearts. And you would just write in the circle or outside of here. I might put February 2021 and then put the other information in here. Now here is one I just appliqued a decorative heart, and I could see this with like the year here and then the other information outside here. That would be really cute. Here is a blue heart. Same thing. I could put the year or the occasion up here, maybe 4th birthday, and then the information in here from and my name, however you want to put it on there. But anyway, you can use the outer edge. My point is you can use the outer border and the heart. Here's one that would go great on a child's quilt, dinosaur. You can put 4th birthday here, and then any information here to, I'm just making up names, to Bobby, from JC, the date. Now here are some that I just hand drew some little simple designs. These are raw edged, and I can either apply these with a fusible webbing, or I could add another piece on top, stitch around it, and turn it like I did the others, or I could just turn the edge under. However you want to do it. Some flowers, and these are all done with Sharpie markers, and then I press them with high heat to make it permanent. And I can say that this does last, because I've got quilts that I made for my parents that are 20 years old, and they washed them, and you can still read them very, very clearly. Here's a potted flower, and then just a border design. This is a heart. It's made out of, now this is not cotton. It's made out of what they call, I believe it's a lamb skin. It's got a nap to it, and it's real plush feeling. I love it, but this would be real pretty on a quilt for a label. Here's a couple of circles with just a little decorative stitch around the edge. Just right inside here. Here are a couple of the just decorative shapes, but without the rectangle in the back, and I would just write inside of here any information. Here's one that I hand drew some little frogs with hearts around them, and then just put a little stitching around the edge. This is one that I attempted to bind the edge. I don't like the way it turned out. It'll probably go in the trash, but I don't know yet. It might end up trashed. This is one that was pre-printed. And you just turn the edges, or you could put a piece on top and turn it that way. But you write your information in here. You could even color this in if you wanted to with the Sharpie markers and press it and make it permanent. Here are some roses that I made. Another border design. This is a little larger than the other one. I made different size labels for different size quilts. Or also just maybe I don't want a large quilt on a large label on a particular quilt for whatever reason. Here are some flowers again that I made with the Sharpie markers. And like I say, I have used these on some of my quilts in the past, and some of those quilts are 20 years old, and that label is still very vibrant. So to do that, I take the quilt, the quilt label that I want to use, and I attach some freezer paper to the back to make it stiff so I can easily write on it. And here's a sample. Here's my label. Here's my freezer paper. I just lay it on there. And press it. No steam. Once it is adhered nicely, that is, then I can write on it. And I will usually use a pen or a pencil first and write the information on here to whomever, from JC, whatever the occasion is, the date, and then the quilt name. You see how easy it is to write on here? And then I would take this and go over it with a marker or with thread. You can do it by hand, you can do it by machine, or like I said, you can use a permanent marker. You can use pigment pens, or like I said, I use the Sharpie pens, Sharpie markers, so I can have some color. And once I've done that, you end up with your piece like this. And here's one where I have embroidered with the machine. And for the ones that use Sharpies, I just take my Sharpie, and this has got freezer paper on the back, so it's not going to go through to my board. And I just go over that. And then as soon as I go over it, I press it. I didn't press that one quite fast enough, so it bled out a little bit. Just a little bit, though. And this one won't, because the fabric is already warm. You see how easy that is and how well it just goes on there? So it's very easy. So that's how I put my information on there. Once I've done that, I will peel this off. Comes off really easy. And once I peeled it all off, I will apply my stitch witchery using a non-stick pressing pad, pressing sheet. And I am going to sandwich this because my stitch witchery is a little larger than my label, and I don't want to get it on my iron. So I'll just close that up, take my iron, and press. No steam at this stage. Now my stitch witchery is applied. Let it cool off a little bit. And that is ready to adhere to my quilt. So, we are going to pretend that this is a finished quilt top. And it's all layered. It's got the quilt top, the batting, and the backing. And it's basted. And you want to turn it over to the back and stick your label on, making sure that you are far enough away from the edge that it doesn't get caught when you have to cut the batting off after it's quilted, and that it won't get caught up in the batting. I mean, not the batting, the binding. You won't catch this label up in the binding or trim it off when you trim up your quilt after quilting it. So mine is far enough away because there's the edge of my quilt. The edge of my quilt is here. And the edge of my quilt is here. So then I'll just apply my quilt within that. My quilt label. And press it down. And now you do your sting. Doesn't take very long. And it's on there. I make sure all my edges down. I'd add a little bit more here. I didn't get enough stitch witchery right there. So I'd add a little bit more here so the corners are down like this one here. And once it's nice and adhered all the way around, take this to the quilt, to the sewing machine, and stitch on there like it's not even there. And when you are finished, it will look like this. This is the quilted block that we're pretending to be a whole quilt, and the label has been quilted down. Now that is all finished. So all I have left to do now is bind this, and out the door it goes. And it's got all the information on it that it needs. And I'm done when I put the binding on it, and that way my quilt is not getting out without a label. So for me, this is working. And I just wanted to share it so that if anybody else is having that same problem where they're letting quilts get out the house without a label on it, maybe this will help you. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. God bless you, and I hope to see you next time. Don't forget to hit subscribe and a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. Thank you. God bless. Much love. Bye-bye.